The frozen ground of Schnee-Eifel Forest crunched beneath boots on that bitter December morning in 1944. Belgian-German border stretched endlessly through ice-crusted trees. Gefreiter Klaus Zimmermann knelt in pre-dawn darkness. His numb fingers fumbled with 6 precious cigarettes. 8 men waited in the shadows. Artillery boomed somewhere in the distance like thunder that never stopped. Mathematics haunted every German soldier now. 6 cigarettes divided among 8 hungry faces. Tomorrow might bring 5 cigarettes if luck smiled. If supply trucks found fuel. If enemy fighters didn't strafe the roads again. Simple arithmetic had become survival calculus. 20 meters through the forest lay something that changed everything. An American soldier sprawled motionless among fallen leaves. Yesterday's skirmish had claimed him. Zimmermann had searched the body with trembling hands. 3 full packs of Lucky Strikes emerged from uniform pockets. 60 perfect cigarettes. Chocolate bars wrapped in pristine paper. Chewing gum that still held its flavor. Instant coffee in waterproof packets. One dead enemy carried more luxuries than Zimmermann's entire company possessed. This discovery would crack something fundamental in German minds. Something beyond military defeat. This was abundance meeting scarcity in the cruelest possible way. 4,000 miles across the Atlantic, American factories hummed day and night. 290 billion cigarettes rolled off production lines annually, all destined for military forces. Hershey alone manufactured 24 million chocolate bars every single week, just for soldiers. The mathematics of war had shifted. Numbers told stories that generals couldn't ignore. German ration systems existed mostly on paper by late 1944. Official allocations looked reasonable in theory. 750 grams of bread daily, 45 grams of butter or fat when available, 120 grams of sausage or cheese, 200 grams of meat if supplies arrived, 7 cigarettes or 2 cigars per man per day. Reality mocked these paper promises. Wehrmacht regulations capped free cigarettes at 6 daily anyway. Even this became meaningless as supply lines crumbled. The allocation established in 1939 had shrunk steadily. German fortunes declined with every passing month. The Reich had miscalculated everything about modern industrial warfare. Obergefreiter Wilhelm Hoffmann, stationed with the 352nd Infantry Division near Normandy, kept detailed diary entries. May 1944 brought bitter revelations. The supply sergeant actually laughed when soldiers asked about cigarette rations. 6 per day on paper had become 6 per week in reality. Even those came from French stockpiles captured in 1940. Stale tobacco crumbled when soldiers tried to light it. German archives revealed the scope of this catastrophe. Wehrmacht surveys in 1944 questioned 1,000 servicemen about smoking habits. 87% smoked regularly despite shortages. Consumption had dropped 23.4% from pre-war levels. 2/3 of German tobacco factories had closed by 1942. Manufacturing capacity shifted to armaments production instead. Even the SS faced tobacco shortages despite leadership connections. Combat units received just 1.5 cigarettes daily, 6 cigarettes per 4-day field ration. Official justification called tobacco a nerve tonic for combat stress. The master race survived on scraps while enemies enjoyed abundance. American K rations represented industrial efficiency perfected. Each daily ration contained 3 complete meals, 3,500 calories of actual food. But comfort items mattered just as much. 4 cigarettes per meal unit meant 12 daily total. Chocolate bars started at 2 ounces each. Later production split these into 2 1-ounce portions. Chewing gum came in 2 stick portions. Instant coffee dissolved perfectly in cold water. Sugar tablets sweetened bitter drinks. Even toilet paper arrived in waterproof packaging. Cigarettes themselves told stories of quality. Camel, Lucky Strike, Chesterfield, Philip Morris, fresh tobacco wrapped in waterproof cellophane. Matches included in every pack. No scrambling for light sources, no careful rationing of flame. Major Robert Johnson of the U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps understood the deeper strategy. His 1944 report explained the philosophy behind abundance. Cigarettes and confectionery served purposes beyond mere comfort. These items maintained morale under impossible conditions. Quick energy came from chocolate sugar. Universal currency emerged in liberated territories. Each soldier's daily comfort allocation cost 47 cents. America could afford to pay this price 11 million times daily. Production numbers revealed two completely different war economies. American tobacco companies had pledged total support to military victory. 1943 saw cigarette production reach incomprehensible levels. The American Tobacco Company alone manufactured 75 billion cigarettes annually. R.J. Reynolds added another 60 billion to this total. Liggett and Myers contributed 50 billion more. These companies converted entire production capacity to military supply. Civilian markets became secondary concerns. Soldiers purchased additional cigarettes at military stores for 50 cents per carton. Individual packs cost just 5 cents. German cigarette production in 1944 totaled approximately 40 billion for the entire nation. Wehrmacht competed with 80 million civilians for these meager supplies. Mathematics painted stark pictures. America produced 7.25 cigarettes for every German cigarette manufactured. American military forces received better supplies than German civilians. American civilians still enjoyed relative abundance despite wartime rationing. Hauptmann Friedrich Becker served as staff officer until capture in Italy. American interrogators heard his confession later. German planning calculated everything imaginable: ammunition expenditure rates, fuel consumption patterns, tank production schedules. Nobody calculated cigarettes and chocolate requirements. This oversight revealed who would ultimately win the war. Chocolate differentials told even more devastating stories. Hershey's military production peaked at 24 million bars weekly. This exceeded Germany's entire confectionery industry output. The company developed specialized products for military use. Field Ration D bars contained 4 ounces of chocolate mixed with oat flour. These bars withstood temperatures up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Each bar provided 600 calories in pocket-sized packages. Between 1940 and 1945, Hershey produced over 3 billion chocolate bars exclusively for military forces. The company earned Army-Navy E production awards 5 consecutive times. Milton Hershey himself articulated the philosophy behind this commitment. American soldiers would fight better knowing chocolate waited in their pockets. Taste of home. Moment of comfort in hell itself. Supply would never run out. Eastern Front conditions had collapsed completely by 1943. Wehrmacht forces died in massive numbers while supply systems disintegrated. Gefreiter Hans Müller served with the 6th Army before Stalingrad's destruction. October 1942, letters to his sister revealed desperate conditions. 6 cigarettes arrived perhaps twice weekly when they arrived at all. Russian position searches focused on tobacco rather than intelligence gathering. Captured Soviet positions yielded rough tobacco called machorka. Soldiers rolled this harsh substitute in newspaper torn from Pravda copies. Soviet propaganda literally served German lungs. The irony burned like the tobacco itself. Master race representatives reduced to smoking peasant tobacco wrapped in communist newspapers. Meanwhile, American soldiers carried multiple packs of quality cigarettes as standard equipment issue. Feldwebel Kurt Weber of the 4th Panzer Army recorded pivotal incidents from January 1943. German forces overran an American supply depot that had been airdropped to Russian allies. Crate after crate of Lend-Lease supplies emerged. Spam in perfect tins. Maxwell House coffee in sealed containers. Lucky Strikes by the thousands. Hershey bars in pristine wrappers. Americans supplied their allies better than Germany supplied its own frontline troops. German soldiers fought each other over chocolate bars while opening crates. Each container held more cigarettes than their regiment had received in 3 months of official allocations. Lend-Lease programs shipped billions of cigarettes to the Soviet Union, along with 70,000 tons of processed food. American industrial capacity simultaneously supplied its own forces abundantly, while providing allies with luxuries the Wehrmacht couldn't dream of obtaining. Italian campaigns from 1943 to 1944 exposed Wehrmacht soldiers to sustained American abundance for the first time. German forces retreated northward through supply lines, operating on incomprehensible principles. American logistics seemed to ignore normal wartime constraints entirely. Oberleutnant Joachim Richter served with the 1st Fallschirmjäger Division at Monte Cassino. February 1944, observations shattered remaining illusions. Americans fired more artillery ammunition in single hours than Germans received in entire weeks. Worse for morale were the discoveries in destroyed American positions. Discarded chocolate wrappers everywhere, empty cigarette cartons scattered casually, half-eaten food cans abandoned without thought. Americans threw away more supplies than Germans ever received. Psychological impact intensified when German soldiers discovered American supply dumps. Unlike German depots, hidden desperately and guarded fanatically, American supplies seemed endless and casually managed. Single-captured quartermaster trucks contained more comfort items than German battalions received monthly. Unteroffizier Franz Hartmann recalled discovering an abandoned American supply point near Anzio. Hundreds of cases of K-rations filled temporary warehouses. Each box contained cigarettes and chocolate as standard contents. German calculations revealed devastating truths. This single supply point contained more cigarettes than their entire division had received since arriving in Italy months earlier. German soldiers filled their pockets completely. Bread bags overflowed with Lucky Strikes. Gas mask containers became chocolate storage. For 2 weeks straight, they smoked American cigarettes daily. When supplies ran out and German allocations resumed, several men broke down crying. 6 cigarettes daily felt like starvation after American abundance. D-Day brought supply differentials into devastating focus. Allied forces poured onto Normandy beaches carrying logistics operations that redefined military supply philosophy. Operation Overlord involved more than just combat supplies. Millions of comfort rations landed with the invasion forces. First week alone saw 14 million cigarettes and 800,000 chocolate bars reach Norman soil. Grenadier Joseph Wagner of the 21st Panzer Division encountered American paratrooper supplies scattered across Norman countryside. Every American soldier seemed to have fallen from the sky carrying personal tobacco shops. Scattered containers revealed cartons of cigarettes. Actual cartons. Each American paratrooper carried more cigarettes than German companies received monthly. Emergency iron rations, meanwhile, consisted of meat tins possibly canned in 1941. Stark contrasts demoralized German defenders completely. Gefreiter Heinrich Schmidt of the 352nd Infantry Division reported troubling developments. German soldiers increasingly volunteered for patrols not for military intelligence gathering, but to search American bodies for cigarettes and chocolate. Dead Americans provided more comfort items than German supply systems ever delivered. This wasn't warfare anymore. Wealthy men fought paupers. American replacement systems compounded psychological blows. German units dissolved from casualties and supply shortages. Fresh American troops arrived daily carrying full rations, including complete cigarette and chocolate allocations. Germans watched enemies discard half-empty cigarette packs because they were slightly crushed. Wehrmacht soldiers carefully straightened bent cigarettes found in mud puddles. Major Karl von Rundstedt served as supply officer for Panzer Lehr Division, no relation to the famous field marshal. His journal calculations revealed impossible mathematics. Each American division in Normandy consumed approximately 130,000 cigarettes daily. Single divisions smoked more than 3 German divisions combined. If German divisions had received full allocations, which they hadn't for 2 years running. Chocolate disparities carried particular psychological weight throughout German culture. Chocolate represented luxury, celebration, childhood joy in peacetime memories. By 1944, German civilians hadn't seen real chocolate in years. Ersatz chocolate made from roasted barley and artificial flavoring sold for exorbitant black market prices. Real chocolate existed only in memory now. American soldiers treated chocolate as mundane, even disposable. D-ration bars were deliberately designed to taste only slightly better than boiled potatoes. Later, tropical chocolate bars were specially formulated to resist melting in extreme heat. K-rations eventually included commercial candy bars like Milky Way and Mars bars, specially created for heat resistance. Gefreiter Paul Zimmermann discovered an American position in Hürtgen Forest. Chocolate bar wrappers covered the ground everywhere. Some showed single bites taken before being discarded casually. His hands shook gathering these wrappers. He licked remaining chocolate from wrapper interiors like a starving dog. Real chocolate hadn't touched his lips since 1941. Americans threw away what his children would consider impossible dreams. American military chocolate programs represented industrial might applied directly to morale maintenance. Hershey wasn't alone in this commitment. Mars produced millions of specialty bars weekly for exclusive military use. Nestle contributed millions more to the war effort. Quartermaster Corps had determined chocolate provided optimal calories to weight ratios while offering psychological comfort transcending pure nutrition. Colonel James Harrison of the Quartermaster Corps explained the philosophy in 1944 memoranda. Soldiers eating chocolate didn't feel like they were at war during those moments. They felt home, human, cared for by their nation. This psychological effect multiplied combat effectiveness beyond any caloric calculations possible. German soldiers increasingly recognized this philosophy's complete absence in their own military system. Wehrmacht treated soldiers as tools requiring minimum maintenance for continued operation. American military treated soldiers as humans deserving comfort even during warfare. This philosophical difference, made tangible through chocolate bars and cigarette packs, eroded German morale more effectively than any propaganda broadcasts ever could. By late 1944, American cigarettes had become universal currency throughout German-occupied territories. Single packs of Lucky Strikes could purchase entire chickens. Cartons could buy bicycles from desperate civilians. German soldiers increasingly used their meager pay to buy American cigarettes from French or Belgian black marketeers. Cigarettes that had been discarded or traded by American soldiers who possessed too many to carry. Obergefreiter Hans Dietrich wrote from Belgium in September 1944. Ultimate humiliation involved buying American cigarettes with German marks from Belgian farmers who had received them free from American soldiers. One pack cost more than daily German military pay. Americans handed cigarettes to children as casual gifts. This economic reality reflected broader supply catastrophes. Germany's war economy, despite Albert Speer's production miracles, could barely maintain weapons and ammunition manufacturing. Luxury items like cigarettes and chocolate had been completely sacrificed for total war mobilization. America's economy, operating at unprecedented capacity levels, produced both implements of war and comforts of peace simultaneously without apparent strain. 1944 statistics painted damning pictures. America produced 500,000 military trucks, 96,000 aircraft, 17,000 tanks, and 290 billion cigarettes. Germany managed 40,000 trucks, 25,000 aircraft, 8,000 tanks, and 40 billion cigarettes, mostly reserved for civilians to maintain home-front morale. Ratios told complete stories. America could afford comfort alongside victory. Germany could barely afford survival itself. American supply systems delivering cigarettes and chocolate to frontline troops represented logistics elevated to artistic levels. From factory to foxhole, systems operated with choreographed precision that German officers studied with professional admiration mixed with personal despair. Ships departed American ports daily carrying millions of tons of supplies. Liberty ships, mass-produced at rates Germany couldn't comprehend, carried holds filled with everything from Sherman tanks to Hershey bars. Upon reaching British or French ports, supplies moved through distribution networks seemingly operating outside normal wartime constraints. Hauptmann Erich Weiss served as logistics officer until capture in France. American intelligence interrogation revealed stunning contrasts. Americans asked about German supply routes, depot locations, distribution challenges. When he explained German systems with their delays, shortages, and constant improvisations, Americans seemed genuinely puzzled. One American officer asked how Germans maintained regular cigarette distribution. When Weiss laughed and explained they couldn't, the officer looked at him with pity rather than triumph. Red Ball Express represented famous American supply lines running from Normandy to advancing fronts. Combat supplies and comfort items moved with equal priority. Operating from August 25 to November 16, 1944, this 81-day miracle moved 412,193 tons of supplies over routes extending up to 750 miles one way. Peak capacity involved 5,958 vehicles operating simultaneously. 75% of 23,000 drivers were African American soldiers serving in segregated units despite their crucial contributions. Operations delivered up to 12,342 tons in single record days, like August 29, 1944. German supply trucks, when they had fuel, made dangerous, infrequent runs, carrying only essential ammunition and medical supplies. Lieutenant Robert Mason drove for Red Ball Express throughout the operation. Forward depots received cases of ammunition right beside cases of cigarettes and candy with identical urgency and efficiency. Quartermasters treated chocolate bars exactly like bullets. Both were ammunition for winning the war. Winter 1945 brought supply differentials to cruelest possible extremes. Battle of the Bulge, beginning December 16, 1944, represented Germany's final offensive gamble. Over 200,000 Wehrmacht troops pushed through Ardennes forests. The offensive would stall partially due to unexpected factors. German soldiers stopped advancing to loot American supplies. Gefreiter Friedrich Bauer advanced with 1st SS Panzer Division through captured American positions. Overrun American field kitchens revealed hot coffee still brewing. Real coffee with rich aromas. Stacks of K rations, each containing cigarettes and chocolate. Fresh bread in perfect condition. Canned fruit in pristine containers. German soldiers ate until sickness overcame them. Pockets filled completely with cigarettes before advancing continued. Squad leaders observed they weren't defeating Americans, but raiding grocery stores instead. Entire Wehrmacht units delayed advances to feast on captured rations. Psychological impacts devastated remaining morale. Soldiers witnessed firsthand that Americans could lose tons of supplies and barely notice losses. German forces, meanwhile, scraped by on starvation rations throughout the offensive. Feldwebel Otto Kraus remembered finding abandoned American supply trucks hit by artillery fire. Dead drivers lay beside scattered cargo. Cases of cigarettes, chocolate, coffee, and canned food covered the ground everywhere. German veterans of 5 years' combat behaved like starving dogs fighting each other over chocolate bars. Dead American drivers carried more cigarettes in uniform pockets than German soldiers had seen in 6 months of official allocations. Meanwhile, encircled American forces in Bastogne received airdrops including ammunition, medical supplies, cigarettes, and chocolate. Defenders of Bastogne, surrounded and outnumbered, smoked freely while German besiegers rationed their final cigarettes carefully. Surrender brought supply shock continuation. American POW camps provided German prisoners with more cigarettes and better food than they had received as active Wehrmacht soldiers. This generosity, incomprehensible to minds shaped by years of scarcity, shattered remaining illusions about German superiority completely. Unteroffizier Wolfgang Meyer, captured during Bulge operations, described first days in American captivity. Americans gave each German prisoner 5 cigarettes daily, only one less than theoretical Wehrmacht military rations that units never actually received. Americans apologized that chocolate was limited to twice-weekly distributions. They apologized. Germans hadn't seen real chocolate in 2 years, and Americans apologized for giving enemy prisoners chocolate only twice per week. German prisoners of war in American camps received regular military rations, including cigarettes and chocolate. After Germany's surrender in May 1945, German prisoners were reclassified as disarmed enemy forces to circumvent Geneva Convention obligations. They still ate better than they had as active soldiers. One prisoner recalled weight increasing from 128 to 185 pounds during captivity. Another wrote about choosing between ice cream and Coca-Cola at Fort Lewis in 1944. Luxuries unavailable even to American civilians due to wartime rationing. Psychological impacts multiplied as prisoners wrote home about American abundance. Letters passing through censors carried messages undermining Nazi propaganda more effectively than Allied broadcasts ever could. "We eat better as prisoners than as soldiers," wrote one captured Wehrmacht officer. "Americans have so much they can afford kindness to enemies," wrote another. While American soldiers complained about K-ration monotony, German civilians faced genuine starvation. Cigarette rations for German civilians had been reduced to 3 daily by 1944, then to 2, then became theoretical as supplies vanished entirely. Women under 25 and over 55 were denied tobacco ration cards completely. Chocolate disappeared entirely except for political elite access. By 1945, urban residents survived on between 1,000 and 1,671 calories daily, depending on regional conditions. Gefreiter Hermann Wolf received letters from his wife in bombed Berlin describing impossible choices. Little Klaus asks when Papa will bring chocolate home. She tells him after the war ends. He asks when that will happen. She has no answers. They receive cigarette rations that week. 4 cigarettes for 7 days total. She traded them for quarter kilos of potatoes instead of smoking them. American soldiers, meanwhile, sent chocolate and cigarettes home as gifts through military postal systems. U.S. Postal Service delivered millions of packages from soldiers to families containing luxury items German civilians couldn't imagine obtaining. Disparity wasn't just military, but civilizational in scope. Private First Class. Tommy Rodriguez wrote to his mother in Texas, sending German money as souvenirs along with chocolate bars. "Don't need them," he explained. "We get plenty here." The abundance seemed endless to German minds, shaped by years of desperate scarcity and careful rationing of every small luxury. The casual instruction to trade cigarettes for something nice revealed a terrifying truth about American capacity. Behind every chocolate bar and cigarette pack lay industrial might that defied German comprehension. The same production lines churning out flying fortresses also produced candy bars. The same efficiency creating Liberty ships at breakneck speed also packaged tobacco products. The same organizational brilliance coordinating massive military operations also distributed comfort items across multiple theaters. American war production by 1944 reached incomprehensible levels. Nearly 300 billion cigarettes rolled off production lines annually for military distribution alone. Hershey factories alone produced over 3 billion chocolate bars for servicemen. K-ration production exceeded 11 billion units. Coffee shipments reached 500 million pounds. Chewing gum production hit 100 million pounds annually. Germany's entire wartime economy couldn't touch America's comfort item output. The Wehrmacht represented the last army of scarcity facing history's first post-scarcity military force. Every discarded American cigarette butt in European mud demonstrated industrial capacity Germany couldn't dream of matching. General Oberst Heinz Guderian admitted during post-war questioning that German planners had miscalculated completely. We counted their divisions and tanks and aircraft. We should have counted their cigarettes and chocolate bars instead. Those told the real story. America could wage total war and barely strain itself. Germany couldn't feed soldiers and civilians simultaneously. American military psychology had reduced morale to mathematical formulas. Research data showed soldiers with steady cigarette supplies performed 15% better under combat stress. Chocolate consumption directly correlated with reduced battle fatigue. The Quartermaster Corps treated comfort items as force multipliers rather than unnecessary luxuries. Major David Eisenstadt documented this approach in a detailed 1945 analysis. A fighting man who knows tomorrow brings cigarettes and chocolate approaches battle differently than one who doesn't. He trusts a system that values his personal comfort. This confidence translates into combat effectiveness far beyond the item's actual value. German troops increasingly recognized their own system's failure in this calculation. The Wehrmacht demanded endless sacrifice without offering comfort. It required endurance without providing rewards. Every missing cigarette and absent chocolate bar reminded German soldiers they were considered expendable. Lieutenant Friedrich Hoffmann captured this realization in his personal diary. The Americans fight knowing their homeland cares about their comfort needs. We fight knowing our country cares only about our willingness to die. They carry chocolate in their pockets while we carry ideology in our hearts. Chocolate proved more durable than ideology. By early 1945, black market exchange rates told the story of inevitable defeat more clearly than battle reports. One American cigarette commanded 5 German cigarettes in trade. A single Hershey bar could purchase a Wehrmacht dress dagger. A full carton of Lucky Strikes could buy a Luger pistol. German soldiers traded military equipment for American comfort items. This represented the ultimate statement about priorities and prospects. In occupied German territories, American soldiers became inadvertent psychological warfare specialists through simple generosity. GIs casually giving chocolate to children or cigarettes to elderly Germans achieved more complete victory than combat operations ever could. The defeated population witnessed American abundance contrasted against German poverty in stark, undeniable terms. Unteroffizier Klaus Zimmermann witnessed an American soldier hand an entire K-ration to a hungry German child. That child received more chocolate in that single moment than German children had seen since before the war began. The mother wept openly, not from shame or humiliation, but from overwhelming gratitude. This American private, probably drafted from some factory job, could afford charitable gestures that German officers couldn't even imagine. The contrast was devastating to German morale. Master Sergeant Bill Patterson served as supply sergeant for the 29th Infantry Division throughout the campaign. His meticulous records survived in National Archives files. These documents provide invaluable American perspective on the supply differential that German soldiers experienced as hopeless disadvantage. January 1945 entry from Belgium recorded typical distribution. Handed out 45,000 cigarettes to the battalion today. The men complained about getting Philip Morris instead of their preferred Lucky Strikes brand. Regulations forced us to destroy 200 chocolate bars that got wet during transport. We can't distribute damaged comfort items to troops. The German prisoners helping with camp duties watched us burn perfectly edible chocolate. One prisoner started crying. February 1945 from inside Germany showed American abundance even under combat conditions. Supply truck hit a mine this morning. lost 10,000 cigarettes and 500 pounds of chocolate in the explosion. Division headquarters says replacement shipment arrives tomorrow morning. No major problem. German POWs helped clean up the mess. They stuffed damaged cigarette packs and broken chocolate pieces into their pockets. Guards let them keep whatever they could salvage. Why not allow it? We'll receive more supplies tomorrow than we can possibly use anyway. March 1945 entry from the Rhine River crossing revealed captured German supply conditions. Overran German supply depot today. Contents were pathetic beyond belief. Maybe 1,000 cigarettes total, all French brands dating from 1940. No chocolate anywhere, no coffee, some kind of artificial tea substitute. Their supply records show this depot was supposed to supply an entire regiment for 1 month. We distribute more than this daily to a single company. Dr. Werner Schreiber worked as a German chemist developing chocolate substitutes during the war. His post-war testimony revealed German attempts to match American comfort item quality and quantity. We experimented with everything imaginable. Roasted barley mixed with saccharin to create chocolate flavor. Dried beet leaves processed to substitute for tobacco. The results were absolutely pathetic. American soldiers consumed genuine chocolate bars containing 600 calories each. Our ersatz chocolate contained 100 calories and tasted like sweetened dirt. They smoked real Virginia tobacco. We smoked whatever plant matter would burn and produce visible smoke. The Americans applied rigorous scientific methods to comfort item development, just like weapons research. Hershey employed food scientists specifically to create heat-resistant chocolate formulations. Tobacco companies perfected moisture-proof packaging systems for military use. We Germans, supposedly the masters of scientific efficiency, couldn't provide our soldiers with edible chocolate or smokable cigarettes. Operation Varsity demonstrated American supply supremacy in its most complete form. The Allied Rhine crossing on March 24, 1945, represented the largest single-day airborne operation in military history. It deployed 16,677 paratroopers total. 9,287 came from the American 17th Airborne Division. 7,220 came from the British 6th Airborne Division. Command specifically included extra cigarette rations and chocolate bars for distribution to German civilians. This invasion encompassed not just military conquest, but deliberate comfort item diplomacy. Private James MacArthur from the 17th Airborne Division remembered the psychological warfare aspects clearly. We carried extra chocolate specifically for German children. Command explained it would reduce civilian resistance to our advance. The strategy worked perfectly. Kids who might have reported our positions came begging for chocolate instead. Their desperate mothers welcomed us in exchange for cigarettes. We conquered German territory through Hershey bars as much as through firepower. German defenders watched American soldiers casually abundant while they scraped for basic survival. Volkssturm units represented Germany's final desperate measure. These last-ditch militia forces included elderly men who hadn't seen chocolate since the 1930s. They included children who had never tasted real chocolate in their lives. These defenders faced Americans who complained about K-ration monotony and limited variety. Obergefreiter Franz Müller wrote his diary's final entry before surrendering to American forces. The Americans approach our defensive positions eating chocolate and smoking continuously. Always smoking something. We have neither ammunition nor cigarettes remaining. The war has ended for us. It was already over when they could afford to eat chocolate during active combat operations. The encirclement of German Army Group B in the Ruhr pocket created the war's starkest supply contrast. The pocket formed when Allied pincers met near Lippstadt on April 1, 1945. Inside this shrinking perimeter, 317,000 German soldiers slowly starved. Outside the pocket, American forces maintained complete supply lines, including regular comfort item distribution. The contrast couldn't have been more complete or demoralizing for trapped German forces. General Lieutenant Fritz Bayerlein commanded the remnants of Panzerlehr Division during surrender negotiations. He recalled the psychological impact years later. The American colonel offered me cigarettes during our meeting. A full pack, actually. Said I could keep the entire thing. I hadn't seen a complete cigarette pack in over 2 years of combat. He smoked continuously throughout our negotiations. He stubbed out half-finished cigarettes carelessly. Each discarded butt represented more tobacco than my men had seen in weeks of desperate fighting. American psychological warfare units exploited this disparity systematically through loudspeaker broadcasts. German soldiers, American forces are eating hot meals with real coffee while you slowly starve. Every American soldier carries cigarettes and chocolate. Surrender now and eat tonight. The broadcasts succeeded because German soldiers knew every word was absolutely true. The final surrender on April 18th yielded exactly 317,000 prisoners. This exceeded American captures in all North African campaigns combined. Hans-Peter Richter lived as a 12-year-old near Frankfurt when American forces arrived. His memoir, written decades later, captured the civilian psychological impact perfectly. The first American soldier I encountered was eating chocolate while walking down our street, eating it casually like ordinary bread. My mouth watered uncontrollably. I hadn't tasted real chocolate since age 7. He noticed my staring and handed me half his bar without hesitation. Just half, but more chocolate than my entire family had seen in 5 desperate years. I ran home crying and clutching that chocolate like precious gold. Mother carefully divided it into tiny pieces, one small portion for each family member. We ate our pieces slowly and reverently, making them last. My little sister, born in 1942, tasted chocolate for her first time ever. She asked if this was what victory tasted like. Mother replied, "Yes, this is exactly what winning tastes like." We were completely defeated, yet eating American chocolate. The Americans had achieved victory before firing their first shot. American occupation policy deliberately included massive comfort item distribution to German civilians. Operation Backhaul sent empty supply trucks returning filled with cigarettes and chocolate for civilian distribution. This calculated generosity, impossible under German scarcity thinking, accelerated complete psychological victory. By summer 1945, American soldiers in occupied Germany distributed approximately 100 million cigarettes monthly to German civilians. German adults received cigarette rations through American military government. These rations exceeded what the Nazi regime had provided since 1942. Children formed long lines for chocolate distribution programs. They experienced abundance their parents couldn't have imagined during wartime years. American abundance became undeniable daily reality for defeated Germans. Colonel Frank Howley served as military governor of Berlin's American sector. He documented the psychological impact in official reports. "We governed through chocolate and cigarettes as effectively as through military force. Every German child eating Hershey's chocolate, every adult smoking American cigarettes, acknowledged American victory and abundance. These comfort items achieved what propaganda never could: genuine acceptance of complete defeat." German economists studying American occupation methods discovered staggering statistical evidence. The chocolate distributed free to German children during 1945 alone exceeded Germany's entire confectionery production from 1943 through 1945 combined. The cigarettes given to German prisoners of war surpassed Wehrmacht combat troop rations for the war's entire final year. These numbers demonstrated systematic failure of German productive capacity. Professor Ludwig Erhard, future architect of Germany's economic miracle, analyzed American supply capacity with professional amazement. "The Americans defeated us through abundance, not just superior armaments. They could afford to give away what we couldn't even produce for ourselves. Every American cigarette in German lips, every chocolate bar in German hands, taught us our economic system had failed fundamentally." In 1985, at an 82nd Airborne Division reunion, Former Feldwebel Kurt Müller addressed his former enemies. He had become an American citizen by then. You defeated us with chocolate and cigarettes as much as bullets and bombs. Every K-ration we captured showed us America's true strength. You possess so much abundance you could afford kindness to enemies. We had so little we couldn't afford basic humanity. When I discovered American cigarettes on dead paratroopers at Normandy, I knew Germany would ultimately lose. No nation that could provide every soldier chocolate and cigarettes could be defeated by a nation that couldn't. The American veterans applauded this former enemy who had learned war's deepest lesson. That abundance permits generosity, while scarcity demands brutality. Among documents discovered in German military archives was a letter from Frau Elisabeth Hoffmann to her son Lieutenant Paul Hoffmann. Dated March 1945, it never reached its destination. Paul, the Americans have entered our village today. They gave little Anna real chocolate. She ate it so quickly she became sick from richness. The American medic treated her illness and gave her more chocolate. He told her to eat slowly this time. They possess so much chocolate they can give extra to a sick German child. Your father traded his Iron Cross from the First War for cigarettes from American soldiers. They laughed and gave him entire cartons instead. They said the medal was worth more than cigarettes. Such incredible wealth that they can joke about trading precious metal for tobacco. We were told Americans were weak and decadent. They are neither weak nor decadent. They are wealthy beyond our wildest imagination. This war was lost the moment they could afford kindness toward their enemies. Paul Hoffmann never received his mother's letter. He had already surrendered 2 weeks earlier after his unit completely ran out of ammunition, food, and cigarettes. In precisely that order of importance to remaining morale. Post-war analysis revealed the complete scope of American comfort item production during World War II. The statistics told the story of 2 different wars fought by 2 different civilizations. Cigarette production from 1941 to 1945 showed American capacity. Total military cigarettes produced exceeded 1.2 trillion individual cigarettes. Daily production peaked at 950 million cigarettes. Cigarettes per serviceman annually averaged 10,000 individual cigarettes. Brands supplied included 45 different varieties for choice. Cost at military stores was 50 cents per carton, 5 cents per pack. Chocolate production during the same period demonstrated similar abundance. Hershey military bars alone totaled 3 billion individual bars. Peak weekly production reached 24 million bars. Mars military products added another 1.5 billion bars. Total chocolate supplied to military exceeded 20 million pounds annually. Daily calories from chocolate per soldier averaged 600 calories. German production figures for the identical period revealed catastrophic inadequacy. Total cigarettes for military and civilian use combined reached only 175 billion. Military allocation never exceeded 40 billion cigarettes. Chocolate production of all types totaled merely 10 million pounds annually. Military chocolate allocation became virtually non-existent after 1942. Tobacco factories operational dropped to 1/3 capacity by 1942. These numbers revealed what German soldiers had discovered in foxholes across Europe. America had fought World War II while maintaining comfort standards exceeding Germany's peacetime prosperity. General Walter Model wrote a final assessment before his suicide in April 1945. This document was never transmitted to higher command. We believed sacrifice built strength, that deprivation developed character, that comfort represented weakness. The Americans proved exactly the opposite truth. Their soldiers fought harder, knowing comfort awaited them. Our soldiers surrendered knowing only more deprivation lay ahead. They built morale through abundance while we destroyed it through scarcity. Every American cigarette was effectively a bullet. Every chocolate bar served as an artillery shell. We were defeated by an enemy who could afford comfort while simultaneously destroying us. The mathematics of cigarette distribution told the entire war's story in stark numerical terms. If every German soldier had received his theoretically promised 7 cigarettes daily throughout the war, limited to 6 by wartime regulation, it would have required 13 billion cigarettes annually. Germany's entire production barely exceeded this for all military and civilian needs combined. America produced this equivalent amount every 2 weeks exclusively for military use. The mathematical impossibility was overwhelming. Major Wilhelm Hoffmann served as Wehrmacht quartermaster until his capture in 1945. He calculated the impossible equation with professional precision. To match American cigarette distribution to their forces, Germany would have needed to quintuple existing production while eliminating all civilian access completely. To match their chocolate distribution was mathematically impossible. It would have required more cocoa than existed in all areas Germany could possibly access. When Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel signed Germany's unconditional surrender on May 8, 1945, American generals offered cigarettes to the defeated German delegation. Keitel, the proud Prussian officer, accepted eagerly and gratefully. In that single moment, the war's essential reality crystallized completely. The defeated begging for comfort items from victors who possessed so many they could share with enemies. General Dwight Eisenhower's aide, Captain Harry Butcher, recorded the scene's psychological impact. The Germans smoked American cigarettes like drowning men gasping for air. Keitel stuffed 3 complete packs into his coat pockets immediately. These were men who had commanded millions of soldiers, now reduced to hoarding Lucky Strike cigarettes. If we needed final proof of total victory, it appeared in their desperate gratitude for American tobacco products. In 1950, 5 years after war's end, a German schoolteacher in Hamburg asked her class what they remembered most vividly about the war's conclusion. 7-year-old Greta Muller, who had been only 2 when Americans arrived, raised her small hand eagerly. "The chocolate rain," she announced solemnly. The American soldiers threw chocolate bars from their trucks like falling rain. All the children ran behind the trucks, catching chocolate bars as they fell. My older brother said it was the day the world turned right side up again, when chocolate fell from the sky instead of bombs. The teacher, Frau Hoffmann, had lost her husband on the Eastern Front. She wrote in her diary that evening, "The children remember American chocolate more clearly than German defeats. Perhaps that represents the war's truest lesson, that abundance defeats ideology every time, that comfort conquers sacrifice, that nations who can afford giving chocolate to enemy children have already achieved complete victory." The supreme irony emerged during extensive post-war interviews with German veterans. Soldiers who had fought to the death for National Socialism endured unimaginable Eastern Front hardships. They maintained discipline despite overwhelming odds, yet they identified the precise moment they knew defeat was inevitable. Not when Allies landed at Normandy, not when Soviet armies crossed into Germany proper, not when Allied bombers darkened European skies. But when they realized American soldiers possessed unlimited cigarettes and chocolate while they had neither. In that recognition lay the war's ultimate truth, that industrial abundance, not racial ideology, determined final victory. Oberst Hans von Luck, one of Rommel's most decorated officers, summarized this realization in his post-war memoirs. "We considered ourselves warriors of the superior race, destined to rule through will and sacrifice alone. We were defeated by democratic factory workers carrying more cigarettes than our generals possessed, by a nation so wealthy it could afford wasting what we couldn't produce. Every lucky strike in American lips proclaimed their inevitable victory. Every absent German cigarette admitted our certain defeat." The final statistics of comfort item distribution told a story no propaganda could possibly refute. These numbers represented 2 completely different approaches to warfare and civilization. American forces from 1941 to 1945 distributed 1.2 trillion cigarettes to their troops. They distributed 5 billion chocolate bars. They supplied 500 million pounds of coffee. Chewing gum distribution reached 100 million pounds. Average daily calories per soldier totaled 4,300. Comfort items cost totaled $2.3 billion. German forces during the same period distributed an estimated 35 billion cigarettes total. Chocolate became negligible after 1942. Coffee became ersatz substitutes only after 1941. Average daily calories per soldier dropped to 1,800 by 1945. No budget existed for comfort items by war's end. These numbers revealed what every German soldier who encountered Americans learned individually, that America had fought an entirely different war, a war where soldiers expected comfort and received it consistently, where industrial might expressed itself through chocolate bars as much as heavy bombers, where victory was assured by the nation that could afford keeping soldiers happy while fighting on two global fronts simultaneously. The story of Wehrmacht soldiers receiving 6 cigarettes daily when they received any at all represents more than simple supply disparity. It tells the story of two fundamentally different systems colliding violently, with the outcome determined not by courage or ideology, but by raw productive capacity. Every German soldier who encountered American abundance experienced the same devastating revelation. They had been sent to fight the world's first post-scarcity military with empty stomachs and empty cigarette cases. They had been told racial superiority and iron will would overcome material disadvantages. Instead, they discovered that nations capable of providing chocolate and cigarettes to millions of soldiers while waging global war possessed power, transcending mere military force. The cigarettes and chocolate represented symptoms of deeper truth. America could afford comfort because its system produced abundance naturally. Germany demanded sacrifice because its system produced only scarcity. American soldiers expected cigarettes and chocolate because their nation could provide them reliably. German soldiers learned to expect nothing because their nation had nothing left to give. The war's outcome was written in production statistics, not battle plans. In industrial capacity, not ideological fervor. In chocolate bars and cigarette packs, not racial theories. The Wehrmacht soldier, carefully hoarding his 6 daily cigarettes when he received them, while watching American soldiers carelessly discard half-smoked Lucky Strikes, witnessed the real balance of power. Americans had chocolate in every K ration because they could afford it. Germans had ideology in every order because they had nothing else remaining. Between chocolate and ideology, chocolate achieved victory. Between abundance and sacrifice, abundance triumphed completely. Between the nation providing comfort to soldiers and the nation demanding only endurance, the outcome was never truly in doubt. Wehrmacht soldiers who received 6 cigarettes daily, when they received any at all, learned what their leaders never understood: that in modern industrial warfare, the nation affording to keep soldiers supplied with comfort items has already won decisively. The chocolate in American K rations and cigarettes in American pockets weren't luxuries at all. They were daily proclamations of inevitable victory. Constant proof that American factories could produce abundance, while German factories failed to produce adequacy. Every German veteran who tasted American chocolate, who smoked American cigarettes, who witnessed American abundance firsthand, knew the war was over long before surrender papers were signed. They had seen the future, and it tasted like Hershey's chocolate and smelled like Lucky Strike tobacco. That was World War II's final lesson, written in chocolate and cigarettes rather than blood and iron. Victory belongs to those who can produce abundance, not those who merely demand sacrifice. Wehrmacht soldiers promised 6 cigarettes daily, but receiving far less, facing Americans with chocolate in every pocket, learned this truth one captured K ration at a time.